The weeks following the battle were chaos for the Galactic Confederation. News of what happened at Thessar 9 spread across every system, every world, every space station. The story changed as it traveled, growing larger and more dramatic. But the core facts remained the same. Humans had answered a call for help, fought against impossible odds, and won. The Confederation Council met an emergency session. The chamber that had been so reluctant to contact humans now erupted in heated debate about what to do with them. Some wanted to punish Admiral Chen for disobeying withdrawal orders. Others wanted to grant humans more authority. Everyone had opinions, and everyone was talking at once. Ambassador Talora sat in her assigned seat, her crystalline form shifting colors with her emotions. She had submitted her full report, holding nothing back. She had described the human ships, the human tactics, the human courage. She had also described their honor, their discipline, and their code of ethics in war. Chairman Vexthar called for order. The chamber slowly quieted. We face a decision that will shape the future of the Confederation. The humans have proven themselves capable warriors. They saved 20,000 civilians. They defeated the Ravager threat that has plagued us for years. But they are also violent, aggressive, and they ignored direct orders from this council. Ambassador Krell, the bird-like being who had opposed contacting humans from the start, stood up. Chairman, I warned this council about the humans. They are dangerous. Yes, they helped us this time. But what happens next time? What if they decide we are the enemy? We have given weapons to a predator and hoped it would protect us instead of eating us. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Many species still feared humans, still saw them as barely civilized Deathworlders who might turn on the Confederation at any moment. Talora stood. The chamber fell silent. She had earned the right to speak by being there, by witnessing everything firsthand. Honored members of the council, she began, her voice steady and clear. I was there. I saw everything. I lived on their ships, ate their food, watched them prepare for battle. I stood on the bridge when they faced 200 enemy vessels. I saw them bleed and die to protect people they had never met. She paused, letting her words sink in. Yes, humans are violent. Yes, they are aggressive. Yes, they come from a death world that made them into weapons. But they are not savage. They follow rules. They protect prisoners. They honor surrenders. They fight with purpose, not cruelty. Talora's form flashed with passionate colors. We are a peaceful species, all of us in this chamber. We have built a civilization on cooperation and understanding. That is our strength. But it is also our weakness. When violence comes, when predators attack, we have no answer. We talk and negotiate while our people die. She gestured at the display showing footage from the battle. The humans are our answer. They are the shield we have needed for generations. They are violent, yes, but they have chosen to direct that violence toward protecting others. They are warriors, yes, but they are warriors with honor and purpose. They are not savage. They are effective. The chamber erupted in discussion again. Some council members nodded in agreement. Others shook their heads. The debate continued for hours. Finally, Chairman Vexthar called for a vote on the proposed solution: full Confederation membership for humanity, with the condition that they become the military arm of the Alliance. The voting took time. Each species had to consult with their governments. Messages flew across space at faster than light speeds. Days passed. Finally, the results came in. The measure passed by a narrow margin. Humanity was granted full membership. The Terran Systems Defensive Pact was established. Humans would train Confederation forces, coordinate defense against external threats, and respond to emergencies. In exchange, they gained full access to Confederation technology, trade networks, and diplomatic channels. The news reached Earth within hours. The reaction was mixed. Some humans were pleased to be fully accepted. Others were suspicious that the Confederation only wanted them as soldiers. But overall, humanity agreed. They would be the defenders. It was a role they understood. 3 months after the battle, a memorial was unveiled on Thessar 9. The colony had been rebuilt. Its population returned. The memorial was a simple structure of dark stone, carved with 20,000 names. These were the people who had been saved, who lived because humans answered a call for help. Admiral Chen attended the ceremony. She stood in her dress uniform, medals on her chest, her face composed. Talora stood beside her, her crystalline form reflecting the sunlight. They watched as families walked through the memorial, touching the names of friends and loved ones who had survived. 20,000 people, Talora said quietly. 20,000 lives that would have been lost if you had not come. Chen nodded slowly. We lost good people in that battle. 347 humans died protecting this place. Every one of them was a volunteer. Every one of them knew the risks. They chose to stand anyway. I was wrong about your people, Talora admitted. I thought you were dangerous savages. I was terrified of what you might do. But I was judging you by your capacity for violence instead of your reasons for using it. You are not violent because you enjoy it. You are violent because sometimes violence is the only way to protect innocence. Chen smiled slightly. We are not perfect, Ambassador. We are aggressive. We are quick to anger. We have a dark history full of terrible wars and mistakes. But we have learned from those mistakes. We know the cost of violence. That is why we try to use it only when necessary, and why we follow rules when we must fight. They stood in silence for a while, watching the memorial visitors. Children played nearby, their laughter carrying on the wind. These children would grow up because humans had come when called. They would have families, careers, lives, all because Deathworlders had answered with fire. Chen's communicator beeped. She checked it and sighed. New distress call. Pirates attacking a research station in the Beta Quadrant. Confederation security forces are too far away to respond in time. She looked at Talora and grinned. Duty calls. The 4th Fleet is already in that sector. They can be there in 6 hours. Want to come along? Someone needs to keep us Deathworlders out of trouble. Talora's crystalline form flashed with surprised colors. You want me to come with you? Of course, Chen said. You understand us now. You can explain to the other Confederation species that we are not monsters. Plus, you did pretty well on the bridge during that last battle. We could use someone with your skills. Talora thought about it for only a moment. She had spent years as a diplomat talking and negotiating. She had spent a few days with humans and learned more about solving real problems than in decades of council meetings. Perhaps it was time to try a different approach. I would be honored to join you, Admiral, Talora said. Someone needs to make sure you Deathworlders remember to use diplomacy before defaulting to violence. Chen laughed. Fair enough. We can always use a voice of reason. Come on. Our transport leaves in 20 minutes. As they walked toward the landing pad, Talora reflected on how much had changed. The Confederation had called for help, and the humans had responded. They had fought not for payment or political gain, but because it was right. They had shown that Deathworlders could be protectors instead of predators, and in return the Confederation had finally accepted them. Not as provisional members or tolerated outsiders, but as full partners, as defenders, as friends across the galaxy. The news spread. The Confederation had found its teeth. The Deathworlders stood watch. Pirates, raiders, and would-be conquerors heard the story of Thesar 9 and thought carefully about their next moves. In the dark corners of space where violence festered, a new rule emerged. Do not threaten the Confederation. The humans will come, and when Deathworlders answer a call for help, they answer with fire, but they also answer with honor, with discipline, and with purpose. They are not monsters. They are protectors. And the galaxy was slowly learning the difference. On the transport to orbit, Talora looked out the window at the planet below. Thesar 9 was peaceful now, its people safe. The memorial stood as a reminder of what had been saved and what had been sacrificed. Admiral Chen sat across from her, reviewing mission briefs on a data pad. She looked up and caught Talora watching her. Something on your mind, Ambassador? Talora's form shifted to thoughtful blue. I was just thinking about how far we have come. A few months ago, most of the Confederation was terrified of humans. Now we depend on you. It is a strange transformation, Chen nodded. Fear and respect are separated by understanding. You were afraid of us because you did not understand us. Now you do. We are not perfect, but we try to do the right thing. That is all anyone can ask. What happens now? Talora asked. Do you think this partnership will last? That depends on us, Chen said. We have to prove that we can be trusted. The Confederation has to accept that sometimes violence is necessary. If we can both do our parts, this could work. The peaceful species provide wisdom and diplomacy. Humans provide protection and force when needed. Together we are stronger than either could be alone. The transport reached orbit and docked with a waiting frigate. As they transferred to the military vessel, Talora felt a sense of purpose she had never experienced in council chambers. The asteroid belt around Thesar 9 became a construction site. Human ships moved between the rocks, turning natural formations into weapons platforms. Mining explosives from the colony were repurposed into mines. Cargo haulers were converted into unmanned missiles, their holds filled with explosives and their controls set to ram enemy ships. Talora watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as the humans worked. They moved with incredible speed, transforming the entire system into a trap in less than 48 hours. It was creativity born from desperation, the kind of thinking that only came from a species that had survived countless impossible situations. Meanwhile, the civilian evacuation proceeded smoothly. Every transport that could carry people was loaded and sent away under escort. The colony that had held 20,000 souls was emptying rapidly. The humans were making sure that if they failed, at least the civilians would survive. A message arrived from Confederation Command. Talora read it with sinking spirits. Help was coming, but it would take 6 days to arrive. The Ravager fleet would be here in hours. The human fleet would have to hold alone for days against impossible odds. The message also contained an order. The human fleet was to withdraw immediately. Command deemed the situation too dangerous. Losing the colony was acceptable. Losing the human fleet and damaging relations with the Terran systems was not. Talora delivered the message to Admiral Chen personally. The Admiral read it in silence, then set it aside without comment. "Admiral?" Talora asked hesitantly. "The order is clear. We should withdraw." Chen looked at her steadily. "Ambassador, if we leave, what happens to the civilians still being evacuated? What happens when the Ravagers arrive and find us gone? They will hunt down every transport, every fleeing ship, and destroy them all in revenge." "No. We stay. We hold the line." "But you will be disobeying orders," Talora protested. "You could be court-martialed. Your career will be over." Chen smiled grimly. "My career does not matter, Ambassador. Those people's lives matter. We came here to do a job. We finished the job. That is what humans do." Talora realized then that she had been wrong about humans. They were not barely controlled savages. They were people with a code, a sense of honor that ran deeper than orders or self-interest. They would stand and fight because it was right, even if it cost them everything. She decided not to report Chen's refusal to withdraw. Let the Confederation Command think she had not delivered the message in time. When this was over, if they survived, she would face the consequences. But right now, she agreed with the Admiral. The civilians came first. During the preparation time, Talora spent hours with the human crew. She listened to their stories. Sergeant Rodriguez told her about his home on Mars, about his children who would never see their father again if he died here. Lieutenant Park talked about joining the military to protect colonies just like Thesar 9, because his own family had been saved by soldiers when pirates attacked their home years ago. Admiral Chen shared her own story one evening. Her brother had been killed by pirates 15 years ago, during the early days of human expansion into space. He had been a civilian transport pilot, unarmed and helpless. The pirates killed everyone aboard his ship just to steal the cargo. "That is why I joined the military," Chen said quietly, "so that no one else's brother, sister, mother, or father would die helpless. We protect people. That is our purpose," Talora understood then. The humans were not fighting because they loved violence. They were fighting because they loved their families, their communities, their species, and they had extended that protection to include the Confederation, even though the Confederation had never fully accepted them. The sensors detected the Ravager fleet's arrival 12 hours before they dropped out of faster-than-light speed. The massive formation was right on schedule. 207 ships, according to the readings. An armada large enough to conquer entire systems. The human fleet took up defensive positions around the asteroid field. Every ship was damaged from the previous battle, but still operational. Every weapon was loaded and ready. Every crew member was at their station. "They are here," the sensor officer announced. Reality twisted as the Ravager fleet arrived. 200 ships appeared in perfect formation, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. At their center was a massive dreadnought, easily 5 times larger than any other ship present. This was the flagship of War Master Xect, the legendary Ravager commander. A message came through immediately. The translation appeared on the screen, the words full of arrogance and hate. "Human vessels, this is War Master Xect. You have attacked Ravager property and killed Ravager warriors. For this crime, you will die slowly. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Resist and we will hunt down every human colony and burn them to ash. You have 1 minute to decide. Admiral Chen did not hesitate. She opened the communication channel and spoke clearly. War Master Keskett, this is Admiral Sarah Chen. You attacked a civilian colony under Confederation protection. Your forces murdered innocent people. We removed your fleet and will remove you. You threatened to attack human colonies. Let me be very clear. Try it and we will burn your worlds until nothing remains but dust and memories. This is your only warning. Leave now or face the consequences. The War Master's response was filled with clicking laughter. Brave words from dead humans. You are 20 ships against 200. You have no hope. Attack! The Ravager fleet surged forward, and the trap was sprung. The first wave of Ravager ships hit the minefield. Explosions blossomed across space as dozens of carefully placed mines detonated. Ships were damaged, shields were overloaded, and formation broke apart. The Ravagers had expected an ambush, but not on this scale. Before they could recover, the converted cargo haulers launched from hidden positions. Unmanned ships accelerated to ramming speed, their holds full of mining explosives. The Ravagers shot down most of them, but several got through. When they hit, the explosions were spectacular, each one taking out multiple enemy vessels. The human fleet opened fire from concealed positions among the asteroids. They were using the rocks as cover, appearing just long enough to shoot before disappearing again. It was guerrilla warfare in space, using terrain that most species ignored. The battle raged for hours. The humans could not win through force, so they won through cunning. They led Ravager ships into ambushes. They used false sensor signatures to make the enemy waste ammunition. They turned the asteroids themselves into weapons, using precise shots to send rocks tumbling into enemy formations. But the numbers were overwhelming. Slowly, inevitably, the Ravagers pushed forward. The human destroyers took massive damage. One was completely disabled, its crew abandoning ship in escape pods. Another had its main guns destroyed and was forced to retreat behind the lines. On the Indomitable, damage reports came in constantly. Hull breaches on multiple decks, one engine offline. Fighter bays heavily damaged. Half the ship's weapons were non-functional. The crew worked frantically to keep the ship fighting, but everyone knew they were losing. Talora found herself at a communication station, replacing an injured crew member. She coordinated damage control teams, her fear transformed into purpose. If these humans could fight despite impossible odds, she could help in whatever small way possible. 36 hours into the battle, Admiral Chen called a brief meeting with her senior officers. The situation was clear. They could hold for maybe 12 more hours before the fleet was completely destroyed. Confederation reinforcements were still 4 days away. The math was simple and brutal. We have bought time for the civilians to escape, Chen said. That was our primary mission. They are safe now. The question is, do we withdraw now and live? Or do we stay and make the Ravagers pay for every meter of space? The officers looked at each other. Then one by one they stated their positions. Every single one chose to stay. Not because they wanted to die, but because every hour they held was one more hour the evacuees gained distance. 1 more hour for reinforcements to arrive. 1 more hour to hurt the Ravagers so badly they would think twice before attacking anyone again. The battle continued. The human line held, but barely. Ships that should have been destroyed hours ago kept fighting through sheer determination. Crews that should have been dead from exhaustion kept working. It was humans doing what they did best, refusing to quit even when quitting was the logical choice. Then, as the human fleet prepared for what might be its final stand, the sensors detected something. New faster-than-light signatures. Multiple contacts approaching fast. Talora's heart sank. More Ravagers. They were sending reinforcements to finish off the humans. It was over, but the sensor officer was smiling. Admiral, those are not Ravager signatures. Those are human ships. It is the 1st and 2nd fleets. The bridge erupted in cheers. Chen allowed herself a small smile. I guess Command decided to send help after all. Reality twisted again as 3 separate battle groups dropped out of faster-than-light speed. 90 human warships appeared in perfect formation, fresh and undamaged. At their center was a massive vessel, larger than anything Talora had ever seen. The dreadnought Terra's Fury had arrived, and it brought the full might of the Terran systems with it. A message came through on all channels. The voice was deep and calm, carrying absolute authority. The first Vrelk missile screamed through space toward the human fleet. Energy beams followed, bright lances of destruction meant to cut through shields and armor. It was a devastating opening strike, the kind that would cripple most Confederation fleets. The human ships did not slow down. They did not raise shields. They accelerated forward directly into the incoming fire. Talora gripped the railing on the bridge as the Indomitable shook from impact. Warnings flashed on the displays. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12, minor damage to starboard armor, one fighter bay temporarily sealed. But the ship kept moving, kept accelerating, eating up the distance between them and the enemy. "Why are we not using shields?" Talora asked, her voice high with stress. Admiral Chen did not take her eyes off the tactical display. "Shields take power. We would rather use that power for weapons and engines. Our armor is designed to absorb hits. A few scratches do not slow us down." The human fleet split into 3 groups, executing complex maneuvers that should have been impossible at such speeds. The G-forces would kill most species. But the humans had grown up on a heavy gravity world. Their bodies could take the punishment. Wolfpack 1, consisting of 7 destroyers, launched a cloud of electronic warfare drones. Within seconds, half the Vrelk fleet lost their targeting systems. Ships that had been firing with perfect accuracy suddenly shot blindly into space. Wolfpack 2 unleashed something Talora had never seen before: simple chunks of metal, accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic launchers. They were not sophisticated. They were not elegant. They were brutally effective. The kinetic kill vehicles slammed into Vrelk ships with the force of small asteroids. Shields designed to stop energy weapons did nothing against solid mass moving at relativistic speeds. 3 Ravager ships simply ceased to exist, torn apart by the impacts. 4 more spun out of control, their hulls breached and systems failing. Wolfpack 3, led by the Indomitable, charged straight into the heart of the Ravager formation. They were inside the enemy's minimum range before the Vrelk realized what was happening. At close distance, the human ships opened fire with everything they had. The difference was immediately clear. Confederation weapons were designed for long-range precision targeting. Human weapons were designed to destroy. Railguns fired solid slugs that punched through armor. Plasma cannons melted hull plating. Missile clusters overwhelmed point defense systems through sheer numbers. But what shocked Talora most was the human reaction time. The Vrelk were fast, their reflexes honed by generations of piracy. The humans were faster. Every shot found its target. Every maneuver was executed perfectly. They fought like they had been born for this. In truth, they had been. Humans evolved on a world where everything wanted to kill them. Their brains were wired for split-second decisions. Their eyes could track fast-moving objects. Their hands could aim weapons with instinctive precision. They were predators, and this was their hunt. "Admiral, the Ravager heavy cruiser Kargash is disabled," reported an officer. "Main power offline. Weapons down. They are dead in space." "Boarding action," Chen ordered immediately. "Marines, you are authorized to board and secure. Rules of engagement: anyone who resists is hostile. Anyone who surrenders is a prisoner. Protect our own first, but treat prisoners with respect." Talora watched in horror as boarding pods launched from the Indomitable. They were small armored capsules that flew through space and latched onto the crippled Ravager ship. Marines inside cut through the hull with specialized tools and entered the enemy vessel. One of the displays showed footage from Marine helmet cameras. Talora could not look away even though she wanted to. The Marines moved through the Ravager ship in perfect coordination. When Vrelk warriors attacked, the humans responded with overwhelming force. When Vrelk surrendered, dropping their weapons and raising their clawed hands, the humans immediately secured them as prisoners without harming them further. The Vrelk were strong. They were vicious fighters, bred for combat. But the humans were something else entirely. Talora saw one Marine take 3 hits from a Vrelk plasma rifle and keep fighting. She saw another Marine, wounded and bleeding, drag 2 injured Vrelk prisoners to safety when an explosion threatened to kill them all. This was the paradox of humans. They fought without mercy when fighting was necessary. But once the enemy surrendered, the humans protected them. They gave medical treatment to injured prisoners. They followed rules even in the chaos of battle. Outside, the space battle continued. The Ravagers had recovered from their initial shock and were fighting back hard. They had numbers on their side. But the humans had something more important. They had experience, training, and technology designed by people who understood war. "Admiral, enemy destroyer at bearing 270 is attempting to flee." an officer reported. "Let it go," Chen said. "We are here to protect the colony and remove the immediate threat. Any ship that runs away is not our problem right now." 3 Ravager ships broke formation and jumped to faster-than-light speed, abandoning their fellows. The humans did not pursue. They were focused on the ships that remained, the ones still threatening the colony. The battle lasted 47 minutes. When it ended, 15 Ravager ships were destroyed, completely torn apart by human weapons. 22 were disabled and captured, their crews surrendering when they realized further resistance was suicide. 3 had escaped. The human fleet had not lost a single ship. 2 destroyers had significant damage. The Indomitable had hull breaches on 5 decks. Casualties were minimal, mostly minor injuries from the high G maneuvers. Talora stood on the bridge, her crystalline form flashing with emotions she could barely process. Relief, horror, gratitude, fear. She had witnessed humans in combat, and it had been nothing like what she expected. They were not savage. They were precise. They were not cruel. They were efficient. They fought like demons, but they treated prisoners with honor. They were warriors, yes, but warriors with rules and purpose. "Status report," Chen ordered, her voice still calm despite what they had just been through. "Colony is secure, Admiral. No Ravager ships remain in system except our captures. Medical teams are deploying to Thesar 9 to assist with any casualties. Fleet damage is within acceptable parameters. All ships report ready for continued operations." Chen nodded. "Good. Begin securing the prisoners. Make sure they receive medical attention. Repair teams, get those hull breaches sealed. I want damage reports from all ships within the hour." She turned to Talora. "Ambassador, the colony is safe. Your people can begin evacuation if they wish, or they can stay. The immediate threat has been removed." Talora tried to speak but found she could not find words. Finally, she managed, "Admiral Chen, I have never seen anything like what just happened. You defeated a force twice your size in less than an hour. How is this possible?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Because this is what we do, Ambassador. Humans have been fighting wars for our entire history. We have learned some hard lessons. We know that technology alone does not win battles. Training wins battles. Discipline wins battles. Being willing to take damage and keep fighting wins battles." She gestured at the displays showing the captured Ravager ships. "We fight without mercy when we fight, but we are not monsters. Once the battle is over, we follow the rules. Prisoners are treated well. Wounded receive medical care. This is what separates warriors from murderers." An alarm suddenly sounded. Talora jumped, but the human crew barely reacted. They simply turned to their stations, checking displays. "Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting a massive faster-than-light signature. Multiple contacts. Very large formation." Chen's expression became serious. "How many ships?" "Computing now, Admiral. Initial estimate is over 200 vessels. They will arrive in approximately 48 hours. Silence fell over the bridge. 200 ships. The Ravager High Command had heard about the attack and was sending their full fleet for revenge. Talora felt her crystalline form flash pale with fear. "Admiral, we must evacuate. We must run. 200 ships will destroy us all." Chen stared at the display for a long moment. Then she turned to her communications officer. "Send a message to Confederation Command. Tell them to expedite those reinforcements. We are going to need them." "Admiral, we should withdraw," one of her officers said. "We cannot fight those numbers." Chen shook her head. "If we leave, the Ravagers will take the colony. They will kill everyone there in revenge for what we did today. We came here to protect these people. We stay until they are safe." She turned to face her crew, her voice strong and clear. "We have 2 days to prepare. Start evacuating all civilians now. Get them on every available transport. I want the colony empty before the Ravagers arrive. As for us, we dig in. Use the asteroid belt. Set up defensive positions. Make every rock a weapon. We are going to show these pirates what happens when you threaten human allies." The crew responded with immediate efficiency. No one questioned the order. No one suggested running. They were Deathworlders, and Deathworlders did not abandon those under their protection. Talora watched them work, and she realized something profound. The humans were not violent because they loved war. They were violent because they loved peace and they were willing to fight to protect it. The journey through faster-than-light space was smooth, but Talora could not relax. Admiral Chen had invited her to join the fleet aboard the carrier Indomitable. Talora had accepted, knowing that the council would want a first-hand report. Now, standing in the shuttle bay of the massive human warship, she wondered if she had made a mistake. The shuttle bay was huge, easily 3 times larger than any Confederation ship's hangar. Fighters lined the walls in neat rows, each one bristling with weapons. Human crew members moved with purpose, checking equipment and loading supplies. They all wore the same dark blue uniforms, and they moved like a single organism, efficient and focused. A young human male approached her. He wore the same uniform, but with different markings on his shoulders. "Ambassador Talora? I'm Lieutenant James Park. Welcome aboard the Indomitable. Admiral Chen is waiting for you on the bridge. If you'll follow me, please." As they walked through the corridors, Talora noticed everything. The walls were thick, reinforced metal. The lighting was bright and harsh, nothing like the soft glow of Confederation ships. Every few meters there were sealed doors that looked like they could withstand an explosion. The ship was not designed for comfort. It was designed for war. They passed a large room where dozens of humans were exercising. Talora stopped and stared. The humans were running on machines, lifting heavy weights, and practicing combat movements. What shocked her was the gravity. Her sensors told her it was 1.5 times standard gravity. The humans were exercising under crushing weight that would make most species unable to walk. "Is that normal?" Talora asked, pointing at the exercise room. Lieutenant Park glanced at the room and shrugged. "That's the gym. Most of the crew tries to work out every day. Keeps us sharp. The gravity is set higher than standard to maintain muscle mass and bone density during long deployments." Talora's crystalline form flickered with confusion. "But that gravity would exhaust most species. How can you function after exercising in such conditions?" Park looked confused by her question. "It's just exercise, Ambassador. Makes us stronger. Our home planet has heavier gravity than most worlds, so we're built for it." They continued walking. Talora saw more things that disturbed her. In one corridor, soldiers were practicing with weapons, using live ammunition in a special range. The sound of gunfire echoed through the halls. In another area, medical personnel were training, working on realistic injury simulations that made Talora feel sick to her stomach. Finally, they reached the bridge. Admiral Chen stood at the center, surrounded by holographic displays showing data from all 23 ships in the fleet. She turned when Talora entered and offered a human gesture, extending her hand. "Ambassador Talora, welcome aboard. I hope the journey has been comfortable." Talora carefully took the offered hand, remembering that humans used physical contact as greeting. The Admiral's grip was firm but not crushing. "Thank you, Admiral. Your ship is very impressive, and very different from what I am used to." Chen smiled slightly. "I imagine it is. Most Confederation ships are designed with shields and long-range weapons as primary defense. We take a different approach. Our ships are built to take damage and keep fighting. Sometimes the best defense is a hull thick enough to withstand whatever hits you." She gestured to one of the displays. "Let me show you what we're facing. The Ravager fleet at Thesar 9 consists of 42 ships, mostly cruisers and destroyers with a few heavy attack vessels. They have positioned themselves in a blockade formation around the colony." Talora studied the display. The Vrelk ships outnumbered the human fleet nearly 2-1. "Admiral, I must ask, do you believe you can win against such numbers? Perhaps we should wait for Confederation reinforcements." Chen's expression did not change. "Confederation reinforcements will arrive in 3 weeks. Those civilians will be dead by then. As for winning, Ambassador, humans do not measure victory by counting ships. We measure it by completing the mission. The mission is to save those people and remove the Ravager threat. We will accomplish both." A young officer approached, carrying a datapad. "Admiral, we will drop out of FTL in 6 hours. All ships report ready status." "Excellent," Chen said. "Sound general quarters 2 hours before arrival. All personnel to combat stations. Weapons free upon exit from FTL. Rules of engagement. Any ship that does not immediately surrender is considered hostile." The officer saluted and hurried away. Talora felt her crystalline form flash with anxiety. The humans were planning to attack immediately, with no attempt at negotiation or warning. "Admiral," Talora said carefully, "perhaps we should attempt communication first. The Vrelk might be willing to negotiate." Chen turned to face her fully. Her expression was patient but firm. "Ambassador, the Vrelk have been terrorizing this sector for years. They attack civilian ships and colonies. They take no prisoners. They show no mercy. We know this because we have studied them. Negotiation only works when both sides are willing to talk. The Ravagers only understand force." She gestured to a display showing footage from previous Ravager attacks. Talora had to look away from the images of destroyed colonies and dead civilians. Chen continued speaking, her voice calm but cold. "We will give them one chance to surrender. Just one. If they refuse, we remove them. This is not cruelty, Ambassador. This is justice for all the people they have killed. This is protection for all the people they might kill in the future, and this is the only language they speak." Talora wanted to argue, but she could not. Everything Chen said was true. The Confederation had tried negotiating with the Vrelk for decades. It never worked. They always came back, always attacked again. Perhaps the humans were right. Perhaps force was the only answer. Over the next few hours, Talora watched the human crew prepare for battle. She saw soldiers checking their weapons and armor. She saw pilots running flight simulations. She saw medical teams preparing emergency stations. Everyone moved with purpose and confidence. There was no fear, only focus. She spent time in the mess hall, eating food that humans had prepared specially for her crystalline biology. A Marine sergeant sat down across from her. He was a large man with dark skin and kind eyes. His uniform identified him as Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez. "First time on a human warship, Ambassador?" he asked with a friendly smile. "Yes," Talora admitted. "Everything is very different from what I expected." Rodriguez nodded. "We get that a lot. Most species see us as barely controlled savages, but we are not mindless killers, Ambassador. Every person on this ship chose to be here. We chose to stand between innocence and harm. That is what soldiers do." Talora noticed something strapped to Rodriguez's belt. It looked like a long knife, a blade weapon. "Sergeant, why do you carry that? Surely your modern weapons are more effective." Rodriguez touched the knife handle. "This? It is a combat knife. We carry them because sometimes technology fails. Sometimes you run out of bullets. Sometimes the enemy gets too close for guns, and sometimes you need to make a point. A knife works in vacuum, works in any atmosphere, never runs out of power. Plus, it has psychological impact. When an enemy sees you coming with a knife, they know you mean business." The concept horrified Talora. Close combat with bladed weapons was something from ancient history, not modern warfare. But as she looked around the mess hall, she saw that many of the soldiers carried similar weapons. The humans were prepared for every possible scenario, even the most brutal. 2 hours before arrival, alarms sounded throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. A calm voice announced over the speakers, "General quarters, general quarters, all hands to battle stations. This is not a drill." The transformation was remarkable. Within minutes, every crew member was at their assigned position. The casual atmosphere vanished, replaced by cold efficiency. Talora returned to the bridge and stood next to Admiral Chen. The countdown appeared on the main display. 10 minutes to arrival. 5 minutes, 1 minute. "All ships prepare for combat drop," Chen ordered. Her voice was calm, almost casual. "Weapons free on my mark. Wolfpack formations on arrival. Remember the mission. Protect civilians. Eliminate threats. Make every shot count." The displays showed all 23 human ships in perfect formation. 30 seconds, 20, 10. Drop. Reality twisted as the fleet dropped out of faster-than-light speed. Stars snapped into focus. And there, surrounding the colony of Thessar 9, was the Ravager fleet. 42 ships, their dark hulls covered in weapons and armor. They had been lounging in formation, confident that no one would challenge them. They were wrong. Sensors immediately lit up with warnings. The Vrelk had detected the human fleet. A message came through, broadcast on all frequencies. It was in the harsh clicking language of the Vrelk. The translation appeared on the screen. Unknown vessels, you have entered Ravager territory. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This is your only warning. Admiral Chen smiled. It was not a kind smile. She opened the channel and spoke clearly, her words transmitted to every ship in the system. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Third Fleet. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and surrender. After that, you will be considered hostile targets. This is your only chance. The response from the Vrelk was immediate. They laughed. The sound came through the speakers. The crystal halls of the Galactic Confederation Council shimmered with soft light as Ambassador Talora stood before the emergency assembly. Her crystalline form shifted colors with her anxiety, moving from calm blue to worried purple. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 47 peaceful species waited in their seats, their various forms creating a rainbow of life. The holographic display in the center showed a desperate scene. The mining colony of Thessar 9 was under attack. Ships burned in the darkness of space. The Ravager swarm had come and they showed no mercy. Talora's voice was steady despite her fear. 20,000 civilians are trapped on that colony. The Vrelk pirates have blockaded all escape routes. They are destroying any ship that tries to leave. Our people are dying. Council Chairman Vexthar, a tall being with silver skin, raised one hand. His expression was grave. Where is our fleet? Surely we can send military ships to help them. Our nearest battle group is 3 weeks away, Talora said. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. They are dealing with the border dispute in the Antares sector. No other ships can reach Thessar 9 in time. Silence filled the chamber. 3 weeks was too long. Everyone knew what would happen. The Ravagers would strip the colony of everything valuable, then destroy what remained. The civilians would die either from violence or when their life support systems failed. Talora took a deep breath. She knew what she was about to suggest would shock them all. There is one option. One fleet that could reach the colony in time. Who? Asked Vexthar. The humans. The reaction was immediate. Several council members stood up in protest. Others made sounds of disgust or fear. One representative actually backed away from the holographic display, as if the mere mention of humans was dangerous. Absolutely not, shouted Ambassador Krell, a bird-like being whose feathers stood on end. The humans are barely civilized. They come from a death world. Their planet is so dangerous that simply living there made them into weapons. They are violent, agreed another council member. They have been at war for their entire history. War against each other. War against their planet, war against everything. We gave them provisional membership only 5 years ago, and we keep them in a quarantine zone for good reason. Talora held up her hand for silence. I know what the humans are. I have studied them. Yes, they are from a death world. Yes, they are warriors by nature. But they are also here, in this sector, and they have fast ships. More importantly, they have something we do not have right now. They have teeth, Vexthar frowned. Even if we wanted to ask for their help, why would they come? They owe us nothing. We have kept them at arm's length since they joined. Because, Talora said quietly, that is what humans do. They are dangerous, yes. They are violent, yes. But they also have a strange sense of duty. When someone calls for help, they answer. It is part of their nature, as much as their capacity for violence. The debate continued for another hour. Some council members refused to even consider contacting the humans. Others argued that 20,000 lives were more important than their fears. Finally, with time running out, the council took a vote. It passed by a narrow margin. Talora returned to her office, her crystalline hands shaking as she composed the message. She had never spoken to humans before. None of them had, not really. The humans lived in their own space, trading occasionally but mostly keeping to themselves. The Confederation had made it clear that humans were tolerated, not welcomed. She typed the message carefully, making sure to be direct. Humans, she had read, preferred clear communication over diplomatic language. This is the Galactic Confederation. We require immediate military assistance. Civilian lives at stake. We'll compensate. She attached the coordinates of Thessar 9 and all available data on the Ravager forces. Then with a deep breath, she sent the message to Earth's orbital command. The response came faster than she expected. Less than 10 minutes later, her screen lit up with an incoming transmission. Talora opened it with trembling hands. A human female appeared on the screen. She wore a dark blue uniform with silver markings. Her hair was pulled back tightly and her eyes were sharp and intelligent. But what struck Talora most was the expression on her face. It was not angry or cruel. It was calm, professional, and somehow reassuring. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Third Fleet," the human said. Her voice was steady and confident. "We received your distress call. We are preparing to deploy immediately." Talora felt a wave of relief, followed quickly by concern. "Admiral Chen, you should know that the enemy forces number approximately 40 ships. They are well armed and have proven to be ruthless. This will be a dangerous mission." Chen's expression did not change. If anything, a small smile touched the corner of her mouth. "Ambassador, the Terran systems did not join the Confederation to sit on the sidelines. You called for help. We are coming. Third Fleet will break orbit in 2 hours. We will reach SR9 in 47 hours. 2 hours?" Talora repeated, shocked. "But surely you need time to prepare, to plan, to gather supplies." "We are always ready, Ambassador," Chen said simply. "It is what we do. I will send you our approach vectors and communication protocols. I strongly suggest you begin evacuating civilians from the colony now. Once we arrive, things will get loud." Before Talora could respond, Chen continued, "One more thing, Ambassador. When we arrive, you may see tactics that seem brutal or excessive. I want you to understand something. We are not coming to negotiate with the Ravagers. We are coming to remove them. Permanently. If that is not what you want, tell me now." Talora thought about the 20,000 civilians trapped on SR9. She thought about the Ravager ships destroying escape vessels, killing innocents without mercy. She thought about 3 weeks being too long and these humans being the only hope. "That is exactly what we want, Admiral Chen," Talora said firmly. Chen nodded once. "Good. Then we have an understanding." Third Fleet out, the screen went dark. Talora sat in silence for a long moment, processing what had just happened. In less than 10 minutes, she had contacted the humans, explained the situation, and received a commitment to help. No debate, no negotiation about price, no demands for political concessions. Just a simple promise: we are coming. She pulled up the monitoring data from Earth's orbit. What she saw made her crystalline form flash with alarm. The humans were not exaggerating about their preparation time. Ships were already moving, breaking orbit and forming up in space. She counted them quickly. 23 warships, including 1 massive carrier. In 90 minutes, the human fleet left Earth. Talora watched them accelerate to faster-than-light speed and vanish from her sensors. They moved with a precision and speed that no Confederation fleet could match. It took the peaceful species days to organize a military deployment. The humans had done it in less than 2 hours. Talora sent a message to the colony on SR9, telling them to hold on. Help was coming. She did not tell them who was coming. She was not sure if that would comfort them or terrify them more. Then she sat back in her chair and wondered what she had just set in motion. The Confederation had called the Deathworlders for help. Now she would see what happened when humans answered that call with fire and steel.